The college football playoffs and the college football bowl games are just a few days away, so with that being said, I wanted to predict and break down some of these big games we have coming up. In this video, I'm going to talk about 4 different bowl games, and of course, we're going to be talking about the entire college football playoffs. I'm going to give you guys my opinions and my thoughts and everything regarding that, so without further ado, let's just hop right into it. The number 1 bowl game that I think interests me the most is going to be the number 9 Missouri Tigers versus the number 7 Ohio State Buckeyes. This is a game where Missouri has everything to gain and Ohio State has literally nothing to gain from it. Now, I'll be completely blunt here, I think Missouri is a tad bit overrated. Their most impressive win was a win against the Tennessee Vols with a score of 36-7, but Tennessee is not a very good team. And then they have losses to LSU by 10 points, they lost to Georgia by 9 points, and they barely beat a team in Florida by 2 points. Is Missouri a top 25 team? 1000%. Are they a top 10 team? I don't know. But with Ohio State not having Kyle McCord and more than likely not going to have a ton of other guys such as Marvin Harrison Jr., potentially, I'm not quite sure if he's going to be gone or not, I do think that does make this game a tad bit closer. But with that being said, Ohio State has so much talent regarding this team, and I just don't see how Missouri is going to be able to stack up against them. I have Ohio State winning with a score of 24-21. Next, we have a matchup that I am extremely excited for. It is number 11 Ole Miss versus number 10 Penn State. Penn State is very much known for their great defense and their kind of slow-paced offense, whereas Ole Miss is known for their firepower on offense and just kind of being able to outscore anybody in the nation. Both these teams are good, but I also think both these teams are also, again, a little bit overrated. But that's, in my opinion, what makes this game so fun. Both have experienced head coach, and more than likely, they're going to have a ton of players who are going to be focused and energetic about this game. With that being said, though, I think the experience and the explosiveness of this Ole Miss offense is going to be able to overcome the greatness of the Penn State defense. I have Ole Miss winning with a score of 31-20. Next up, we have the Texas A&M Aggies going up against the Oklahoma State Cowboys. Now, Oklahoma State is currently ranked number 22, and Texas A&M is currently unranked. Now, I don't really know how this whole situation is going to go down with Texas A&M and who's going to actually run the team. I'm assuming that there's going to be some sort of assistant coach who's going to be implementing the game plan for this week. But with all the turmoil and everything going on behind the scenes with the Aggies, I just have to imagine that their focus is not really on this game. And to be honest with you, after Texas A&M had a very disappointing season, they really don't have a ton to gain from this game. Whereas I think Oklahoma State has everything to lose. They're currently ranked number 22, and if they lose this game, they're definitely not going to be ranked top 25. And I think in a game like this, Oklahoma State just wants to get a ton of revenge after what happened in the Big 12 championship game. I just kind of think Texas A&M is in the way right now. The Cowboys have a ton of different things they can do offensively. They have a really good slot receiver who's very shifty. They have a good running back, and I think their offensive line is pretty good. My biggest concern for this team is just going to be how they can handle the defensive side of things. But because Oklahoma State has such a great head coach in Mike Gundy, who is extremely underrated, I think he might be one of the best coaches in the Big 12 history. I think Oklahoma State is going to come on top. I actually think it might be a bit of a blowout. I have them winning with a score of 36-20. And the last bowl game we're going to talk about is the bowl game of which neither one of these teams wants to be in. I am, of course, talking about the Georgia Bulldogs versus the Florida State Seminoles. And as I said, neither one of these teams really wants to be in this bowl game. Florida State is, of course, without Jordan Travis, and Georgia is going to have Carson Beck for this week. I do think both these teams are going to come in with a bit of energy, and I think Florida State has a ton to prove in this game. Florida State wants to prove to the committee that they should have been in the college football playoffs over a team like Alabama or Texas. However, despite how badly they want to win this game, I just don't know they have the talent right now to compete with a team like Georgia. Now, if you want to know my opinions of whether or not Florida State should have actually made the playoffs, I've already made a full-fledged video, so I'll have it pinned up right now. But as it pertains to this game, I do think Florida State can keep it relatively close. I don't necessarily know if they're going to be able to win the game, though, because I think their offense is going to be pretty anemic against a very good Georgia defense. That being said, Florida State can probably keep it close because their defense is really good, and I just don't know if Carson Beck can lead this offense to just put up a ton of points against them. But with that being said, it's not going to be a very close matchup. I do think Georgia wins pretty easily. My final score prediction is going to be Georgia 31, Florida State 7. And of course, with that all being said, those are just my predictions. If you guys disagree, let me know in the comments below. I'll gladly talk about it with you guys. If you want to know my predictions on other games such as Liberty versus Oregon, Iowa versus Tennessee, or a team like Memphis versus Iowa State, just let me know in the comments and I'll talk about it down there. But let's go ahead and move on now to the college football playoffs, and this is such an interesting college football playoffs. In my opinion, this is maybe the best playoffs we've had in quite some time. Our two matchups are, of course, the Texas Longhorns versus the Washington Huskies, and then there's the Alabama Crimson Tide versus the Michigan Wolverines. We'll talk about the Texas versus Washington game because this is actually a rematch from a bowl game we had last year. Last year, of course, both these teams were almost in complete opposite of where they are now. Texas was a very interesting team that was like, I want to say 8-5, and Washington, I think, won 9 or 10 games, and they were both good but not great. Washington did end up winning that game, but it wasn't really because Michael Penix threw the ball around a ton. It was more because their run game was super dominant. However, this year, that's definitely not going to happen. Texas has arguably the best 2 defensive tackles in maybe in the entire nation. Tavondre Sweat and Byron Murphy are both names you should definitely hear out for come April or May when the draft comes on. And Texas offensively is 10 times better than they are this year than they were last year. Adonai Mitchell and Xavier Worthy are playing at NFL levels right now, and currently their quarterback in Quinn Ewers is playing at a very good level right now. He may not be the best quarterback of the bowl games, but I do think he's playing very high level with a lot of confidence. And then you have Washington with 3 NFL level receivers, an NFL quarterback, a great head coach, and a very solid defense. And that's kind of the best way to sum them up. You just have a bunch of NFL guys, both offensively and defensively, on both sides of the ball. Now the matchup, in my opinion, to watch out for here is going to be the Washington receivers versus the Texas Longhorns cornerbacks and safety room. Texas has some playmakers. They have some guys on the outside who can be beat, but they can also create plays. Jaron Thompson, Malik Muhammad, those are guys who are ball hog level players. And Michael Penix is kind of known to throw a couple interceptions, so I would not be shocked if Texas is able to get 1 or 2 interceptions off of Michael Penix. Another thing you got to watch out for if you're Washington is the fact that you cannot become one-dimensional. You got to find a way to run the ball, whether it's through screens or quick play action stuff. You just have to find a way to get the ball out, whether it's extensions in the run game or actually just running the ball. My advice to Washington, though, do not run it at Tavondre Sweat or Byron Murphy. It's not going to be very good. I think for Texas offensively, you're going to be at a huge advantage. Washington is good, but they're definitely beatable on the defensive side of things. They're going to create turnovers, they're going to do certain things, and Texas just has to do a good job of taking care of the football. This might be a game that comes down to who turns the ball over more, and I think Texas has a very good advantage because they don't turn the ball over that much. I currently think that Texas is playing the best ball out of any team in the entire country, so I do think Texas is able to continue this on with a victory over the Washington Huskies. I have the final score being 34 Texas, 28 Washington. Let's go ahead and move on now to the Alabama versus Michigan game, and I'll be honest with you guys. I talked about a couple of teams that I think are a little overrated, and I think Alabama might be a smidge overrated. I feel like a lot of people are really doubting Michigan in this game. I just kind of think people think they're just going to fall over to a very good Alabama team, but I just don't really see that being the case. I think Alabama has some clear efficiencies, but also deficiencies on the defensive side of things. Obviously, there's NFL talent in every position on both sides of the ball, but Michigan has 6 offensive linemen who are legitimately going to be NFL players, and I think if they can run the ball against Alabama, I do think that's going to be a pretty easy win for Michigan. Michigan offensively really has not been stuffed outside of against Iowa, which to me is a bit concerning given the fact that Iowa does not have a ton of NFL talent, especially on the defensive side of things. But Iowa is a defensive school. They're really known for their great coaching and their great technique. Alabama, I'm not quite sure if they have the same level of defense as a team like Iowa. They definitely have a better talented team than Iowa, but I just don't know if they have the same technique and play style and scheme to match up with a team like Michigan. And that's not even really my biggest concern. I do think Alabama should be able to slow down Michigan relatively easily. My biggest concern comes down to Jalen Milroe throwing the ball. Milroe has Lamar Jackson-like upside, but Milroe on a bad day is a bad quarterback. He can be inaccurate, he can make bad decisions, he's prone to turnovers, but he is a freakish athlete. If you're Michigan, and I think we said this with every team, force him to be a quarterback. Don't let him run around. Don't let him make plays. Don't let him get the ball down the field. Force him to make in-rhythm throws. Expect for Michigan to play safeties pretty deep. I don't think they want Alabama throwing the ball deep against them because that could open up a ton of things for Alabama offensively. I do think, however, Michigan is the better team, and I think Alabama's going to be good. I just don't know if they're going to be good enough. I have Michigan winning with a score of 24-17, but that brings us now to our championship game between Texas and Michigan. And this is a stylistically interesting game. Texas likes to stuff the run, Michigan likes to run the ball. Michigan is more than capable of actually passing the ball, but I kind of feel like in a sense, the Texas defense is for some reason very similar to the Michigan offense. They have one clear strength and they're pretty good at everything else on the offensive side of things, and that kind of follows suit for the Texas side of things defensively. Texas can stuff the run and they're pretty good at everything else. I think Texas's linebacking core and defensive tackle duo is probably the best out of all these teams. So I do think that Texas should have some relative success stuffing the run against a team like Michigan. To me, it's going to come down to can JJ McCarthy get the ball down the field against this Texas defense. If the answer to that is yes, it's going to be a long day for Texas. But if the answer is to be no, Michigan might have a long day themselves. Michigan defensively is good. They have good defensive linemen, they have good corners, their technique is solid, they play very sharp football. But I saw Kyle McCord kind of dot them up sometimes, and I think Quinn Ewers can definitely do that. The Sarkisian system is incredible, and I think if Sarkisian has time to create a game plan against you, it's going to be very tough to go up against him. And I just don't really know if there's a package necessarily to stop the guys like Xavier Worthy and Adonai Mitchell. We've already seen this Texas team beat very good teams like Alabama and Oklahoma State. Sure, they lost to Oklahoma, but Texas is a far better team they are today than they were back then. I truly do think that Tavondre Sweat and Byron Murphy are two of the best players in the entire college football world right now. And while Michigan has an incredible offensive line, they better not test those guys up the middle. Michigan offensively has some good players. I just don't know if they're going to be good enough to beat Texas. I think Texas right now is peaking at the right time, and they are maybe the most scary team in the entire college football world right now. So with that being said, I think you guys know where I'm going with this. Texas is back. Texas wins with a score of 27-17 in a back and forth game that comes down to a fourth quarter where Texas is able to run the ball against Michigan. These are just my opinions, and I guarantee you guys are going to have a field day in the comment section below. But you guys tell me, who do you guys think is going to win each of these bowl games? Who do you guys think is going to win the college football playoffs? And just kind of all that stuff regarding college football. And if you guys want more college football content, I plan on making a new series in my YouTube Shorts channel where I talk about the recruiting class for each college football team. So if you are interested in hearing more about recruiting for these college football teams, look in my description below. I'm going to have my YouTube Shorts channel pinned down there. I think you guys are going to enjoy a lot of the content I have planned over there. And if you did enjoy this video, make sure to hit the like and subscribe button because that helps me out a ton. But I love you guys. Peace.